Have you ever lived in such a way that if you suddenly disappeared, no one would even notice? I died at 10:42 in the morning in the middle of a Zoom meeting with 47 people. The strange part is, not a single person noticed. My screen froze. My voice cut off mid-sentence. My name still lingered in the corner, like I was still there. But the truth is, I had already been gone for a long time. My name is Rachel Meyers. I'm 42 years old, a media director. The mind behind viral campaigns that hit millions of views. The woman of deadlines, perfection, smiling at the right time, and doing things the right way. I was the kind of person who always knew what to say, but had forgotten how to listen to what I was feeling. My death wasn't dramatic. No blood. No crash. No chaos. It was just a moment. A shutdown. Power off. Heart off. The end of someone who had long been just a shadow of herself. I don't know how long I was out of my body, but I remember one thing clearly. For the first time in my life, I heard true silence. No typing sounds. No emails. No faces hiding behind Zoom filters. Just a white space. Empty and yet profoundly real. And then I heard a voice. I couldn't tell if it was male or female, loud or soft, but it reached the deepest part of my mind. You live to be seen, but have you ever let anyone truly see you? I used to be the one telling stories that reached millions. But for 42 years, I never told my own. Maybe because I didn't know where to begin. Or maybe because I was afraid of facing the truth. I lived as if I didn't deserve to be loved. And only when I stopped breathing, did I finally realize I had never truly lived. Have you ever felt that way too? Living well, staying busy, doing everything right, yet always feeling like something's missing? No name, no shape. Just this hollow space in the middle of your chest. Let me tell you what I saw when I was no longer part of this world. What I heard from the one I had long forgotten. And what made me choose to come back, even though I didn't have to. I thought I had control over everything in my life. But it turns out, the one thing I kept avoiding was the only thing that could save me. In the next part, I'll tell you who I was before I died, and why death was the first time I was ever truly honest with myself. I didn't die suddenly. I died slowly, piece by piece. Every time I said, I'm fine, when I wasn't, a part of me slipped away. I was the kind of woman people looked at and said, she's got it all. A successful media company. A penthouse apartment in Manhattan. A client list everyone else envied. I was Rachel of the $1 million brand. Rachel, whose pitch made CEOs nod. Rachel with the flawless presence, never shaken. But only I knew the truth. I was Rachel of the sleepless nights, the quiet cries in the bathroom, and a scar no one could see right in the center of my chest. 12 years ago, I lost my first child. The baby never had a chance to be born. Just a premature labor, on a rainy day. No cries. No birth certificate. Just a death certificate and a silence that filled everything. From that moment on, I was no longer a mother who never got to be one. I became someone constantly trying to prove I was still strong. I didn't take maternity leave. I went back to work 6 days later. I answered media calls. I appeared on television. I signed new contracts. People patted me on the back and said I was an inspiration. No one knew. I didn't feel anything anymore. I built a perfect glass wall around myself, a flawless image, a pre-programmed smile, a system designed to block out every trace of weakness. I called it strength. But the truth is, it was a retreat. I stopped connecting with anyone, even myself. Every relationship became a transaction. Every conversation, a potential deal. I lost the ability to say anything that didn't have a purpose behind it. My mom used to call every week and ask, "Are you doing okay?" And I'd always reply, "I'm fine, Mom. Just busy." Until one day she stopped calling, and I didn't even notice that I hadn't heard her voice in over 2 years. You know what's strange? I showed up in front of millions of people every week through videos. But I never truly showed up for anyone. I lived like a ghost, one who had mastered playing her role. Until that one morning, the morning everything changed. I woke up, sat in front of my Zoom screen, put on my makeup, clipped on the mic, and started presenting a strategy on emotional connection through technology. And right in the middle of my talk on modern human communication, my heart stopped. And those 47 people just kept on meeting. No one called my name. No one asked, "Where's Rachel?" Because the truth is, I had been gone for a long time, even when my body was still sitting there. I thought I was in control of everything. But really all I was doing was steering an empty shell through each passing day. In the next part, I'll tell you what happened after I left my body and why death was the first time I ever truly saw myself. Death doesn't knock. It simply passes through you, and if you don't wake up, it takes you with it. Everything shattered in a single second. No warning. No transition. No dramatic effect. Just like that, I was no longer there. No more Zoom meeting. No more screen. No more me. Only a vast white space, silent enough to hurt. It wasn't the radiant light you read about in books. There were no angels. No pearly gates. No choir. Just absolute emptiness. And strangely, I wasn't afraid. Was I floating? Flying? Drifting? I wasn't sure. I didn't have a body to check. I couldn't see my hands. I couldn't see my feet. But I was still. Me. A sense of self, shapeless, yet strangely more real than ever. And the very first thing I saw was myself. Not my body, but the parts of me I had long abandoned. I saw every buried emotion. Every "I'm fine" stacked into a mountain. Every glance I had avoided, afraid that someone might see me. And then I saw it. No, not it. My child. The baby I never got to hold. Never got to hear cry. Never gave a name. My child didn't speak. Didn't blame me. Didn't call me mom. Just stood there, or perhaps simply was there. I'm not even sure. The light from my child wasn't blinding, not golden, not heavenly. It was just gentle, like an embrace we never had the chance to share. I don't know how I was crying, but I knew with every part of my being, I had never felt pain like that. And I had never felt forgiveness like that either. My child didn't need an apology. Didn't need an explanation. They simply placed a hand where my heart used to beat, and in that moment, I saw everything I had forgotten. I saw myself, chasing deadlines instead of grieving. Attending meetings instead of holding a memorial. Writing PR pieces about strong women, instead of letting myself fall apart. I didn't let anyone cry with me. And I didn't allow myself to cry for my child either. I lived as if that baby had never existed. And now standing before me, they were more real than anyone I had ever known. And then, the white space began to break open. Not literally, but like an expansion of something deep inside me. I wasn't in a place anymore, I was inside my soul. And in that space, I heard a voice. Not from any mouth. Not through my ears. But echoing through every cell of my awareness. You've lived your life keeping yourself busy. But have you ever allowed yourself to truly be present? I wanted to respond. To ask, who are you? But in that moment, every question felt unnecessary. I understood. I didn't need to ask. Because I knew, that voice was God. Not a human figure. No beard. No throne. Just a presence, gentle yet unflinching in truth. The voice didn't judge. Didn't threaten. It simply knew. Knew who I was. Knew what I had thought on all those empty nights. Knew that I once planned to end my life, but didn't, because I told myself, there's still work to do. I felt like I was standing in front of a mirror that didn't negotiate. Every thought I'd ever had was reflected to me. No fast-forwarding. No symbolism. I became the people I had once hurt. I was my mother reading my cold text, "I'm busy," and letting out a quiet sigh. I was my assistant, nervously walked into my office with the wrong draft, only to hear me say coldly, "Fix it." I was my ex, writing a 4-page apology email that I never finished reading. I wasn't being judged. I was simply being shown a truth one I couldn't deny. And that hurt more than death ever could. Then the voice returned, this time closer, like it was holding me, and whispered, "You are loved not because you're good at what you do, but simply because you are you. And yet, your whole life, you've only known how to love the best version of yourself. You've never learned to love yourself when you were weak." I no longer wanted to go back. Not because I was afraid to live, but because, for the first time, I felt peace. But then my child touched me again. This time, not on my heart, but on my forehead. And in that moment, I understood. Love doesn't hold you back. Love always lets you go. "Mom, you're not done yet. I'm okay now. You need to go back and truly live." I had crossed over to a place where I no longer had a body, no words, but could suddenly see everything. In the next part, I'll share what God showed me, not heaven but my life itself, through eyes that could not be deceived. I used to think the truth was painful because it was harsh. But no, the truth hurts because it's gentle beyond reason, and in front of it, I had no defense left. Then the space around me began to move. Not physically, but emotionally, vibrationally. There were no screens. No highlight reels. No dramatic music. Just the raw feeling of being thrown back into the very moments I had forgotten, or chosen to avoid. This wasn't a memory being replayed. This was me becoming the memory. I saw myself at 14, standing in the bathroom, cutting the sleeves of my shirt longer to hide the razor marks. But I didn't just see myself. I saw my mother, knocking gently on the door and asking, "Are you okay?" And I snapped back, "It's nothing." She walked away, and I felt all of her helplessness, the kind of pain you don't have words for. But no one had ever taught her how to ask the deeper questions. Then I was thrown into another moment, aged 22, on a date. The man sitting across from me was opening up about his depression, and I cut him off mid-sentence. I saw him force a smile, then slowly pull back everything he had just tried to share. And for the first time, I was the one left alone at a dinner table still lit. Then I saw my assistant, whom I had ignored for 6 straight months. An employee emailed me saying they needed time off due to stress, and all I replied was, "Hang in there." A young woman from the marketing team who once sent me an article she wrote saying, "This means a lot to me," and I never even opened it. No one blamed me. No one cursed me. There was no judgment. No hellfire. Just the truth shown to me in a silence, so heavy it took the air out of my chest. And the most painful part? It was the moments when I truly believed I was doing okay. I thought I was being inspirational. I thought I was strong. I thought I was moving on from the pain. But from that higher perspective, I saw the truth clearly. I wasn't healing. I was burying everything at the bottom of my soul and covering it with achievement. And then, the voice spoke again. Still God. But this time, closer, as if he were sitting right next to me, in a quiet, judgment-free conversation. "You always thought you had to be strong, to be perfect, to be loved. But love doesn't ask, 'Are you worthy?' It only asks, 'Will you let it in?'" I couldn't answer, because in that moment I realized I had never allowed myself to be weak. Never admitted I was wrong. Never truly forgiven myself. And then, like being caught in an emotional undertow, I saw my child again, the one who never had the chance to be born. This time, my child didn't just stand still. They stepped closer and placed their hand over my heart, right where I always felt empty. And I heard their voice, not in words, but in something deeper than language, a truth that echoed within my soul. "Mom, I've already forgiven you. But you still haven't forgiven yourself." And I collapsed, not physically, but in spirit. There was nothing left holding me up. Only one undeniable truth remained. I had lived without truly living. I had loved others without ever loving myself. I had tried to save the world, but never saved me. Then God asked me, "Do you want to stay?" I said nothing. "If you choose to go back, then return with the truth. Not to speak about me, but to become a place where I can dwell." I didn't want to return. Who would ever want to leave the one place where they felt the deepest peace of their life? But I knew this peace wasn't meant to be kept. It was meant to be carried into the life I had once run from. And just before the white light began to fade, I heard one final whisper. "You weren't given more time. You were given more awareness. Use it to start living for real for the first time." I didn't come back because I had to. I came back because I finally found myself. In the next part, I'll tell you what happened when I opened my eyes and how my old life no longer fits the soul that had just been made new. I woke up, but I wasn't the same person who had collapsed in the middle of that Zoom meeting. I was being washed clean not by water, but by truth. The first light I saw wasn't blinding. It was just the ceiling light in the ICU, flickering softly, like it was breathing. I blinked, and the first feeling wasn't, "I'm alive." It was, "I'm present." I couldn't speak, but I didn't need to. All I needed was to listen. For the first time in years, I listened to the silence within myself, and I wasn't afraid. They said my heart had stopped for nearly 7 minutes. No one could explain what had happened. One doctor whispered, "She's lucky." But I wanted to say no. I'm not lucky. I've been graced. I've been given a gift. I was discharged 6 days later. No post saying, "I came back from the dead." No live stream. No press conference. I wrote only one line in my journal. I didn't come back to continue. I came back to begin. I cleared out my inbox. Deleted my schedule for the next 3 months. Canceled 5 meetings. Called my mom. For the first time in 2 years, I asked her, "How are you, Mom?" And for the first time, I waited for her answer instead of hanging up first. I bought a simple wooden chair and placed it by the window, not for photos, but just to sit there every morning, sip my coffee, and watch the sunlight. I didn't make a plan to revive my career. I made a plan to cook dinner for myself. No Netflix. No deadlines. No keyboard clicks. Just the sound of a knife on the cutting board. The gentle boil of water. and the quiet warmth of my heart slowly coming back to life. I started writing handwritten letters to people I had hurt, not to be forgiven, but to let them know. I saw myself from a place where there was nothing left to hide. I found the box of baby clothes I had once tucked away. The tiny knit cap my child never got to wear. I didn't cry. I simply held it to my chest for the first time. No shame. No fear. Then I placed it in a new box labeled, "For the child I never got to raise, but who raised the mother in me." I signed up to teach a free filmmaking class to teenagers at a local orphanage. The kids taught me how to use TikTok. I taught them how to shoot with natural light. One 10-year-old girl asked me, "Do you have any kids?" And I answered without hesitation, "Yes. One. In a very peaceful place." She nodded, as if she understood. I live slower now. I listen more. I speak less. And I laugh more, not because I'm happier, but because I feel lighter. I'm no longer Rachel, the successful one. I'm Rachel, who is present. I no longer need to be someone. I just want to become a space where anyone I touch can feel at peace. I didn't come back to tell you about a miracle. I came back to remind you, the life you're living, even in its pain, even in its chaos, still holds a place for truth. And always a doorway to come home. And in this final part, I'll share with you the last whisper I heard from God, a single question. And if you dare to answer it, you will never live the same way again. I once died in the middle of a Zoom meeting. But what truly broke me, it was not the death itself, it was that no one noticed I was gone. Because the truth is, I had stopped truly living long before that moment. Now when I breathe, I know I'm breathing. When I speak, I know why I'm speaking. Still make coffee every morning. Still go to work, but not to escape anymore now. I work to be present. There's a small slip of paper on my desk. It holds just one line. Every breath is a yes to life. Not everything has changed. The world is still in a rush. People still judge. Deadlines still come. But one thing has changed forever. I came back to myself. You don't need your heart to stop to wake up. You don't need a near-death experience to live authentically. You just need to pause and ask, am I truly living or just existing in a role I've grown too used to playing? I didn't come back to tell you about God. I came back to share with you the question He whispered to me just before the light faded. You've loved the whole world, but have you ever loved yourself when there was nothing left to prove? I brought that question back with me like a quiet lantern in the dark. I didn't dare answer it right away. And maybe you've been avoiding it too. The way I once did. But if you're still breathing today, then you still have a chance to begin again. Not for anyone else. Not to prove anything. Just to finally live truthfully for you. I died in the middle of a Zoom meeting with 47 people present and no one noticed. But the truth is, I had disappeared from my own life long before that, even though my body was still there. And if you're living that way too, maybe you don't need a stroke. Maybe you just need the courage to open your eyes and come back to yourself right now. If you've ever lost yourself, if you've ever lived for everyone else and forgotten who you are, share your story in the comments. Because maybe your words will be the first ray of light for someone still walking in the dark. And if you want to keep walking alongside these kinds of journeys, hit follow. Not to watch more videos, but so you don't miss yourself in a world that's moving way too fast.